All right, so now without any further ado, let's go get him. Hi Shonda, I am 24 years old and I dated this guy in college. Let's call him Chris. It wasn't a long relationship, but it was the most emotionally draining and damaging. Chris started off as one of my rebounds. We went to the same school but never crossed paths. We ended up meeting one summer through social media. We were both outside of the state at the time, so we got to know each other via FaceTime and texting. Over the span of 2 summer months, we fell in love. We finally met in person at the start of the school year and we officially started dating. It was good at first, but we started to grow apart. Chris was Mr. Popular, life of the party. I was reserved and not really involved. This was something we couldn't pick up on in our long distance relationship where it was just us and no distractions. Time went on and I started to feel inadequate. I had no friends at the time, so he was all I had. We joined clubs together and overall I tried to be more involved. I just felt out of place and uncomfortable. Chris would nitpick everything about me, my hair, how I interacted with other people, the grades I made, how sad and down I was most of the time. I lost a parent a couple years before and I would have waves of depression. It made me feel really self-conscious. This was over 5 years ago. For the love of God, I don't know what attracted me to him in the first place or why I stayed. I guess my lack of self-confidence. I was later diagnosed with social anxiety and depression, but at the time I had no idea what was wrong. I remember one day I told him I needed him. He told me I wasn't supposed to need him and that we should break up. Maybe when I figure out my problems we could resume. We broke up and got back together. This pattern went on for a while. I tried to do my own thing, but it always felt like he was lurking around. We started talking again until one day we got into a fight. He told me he does not see us ever getting back together again. He used the relationship to string me along because he knew that I was weak and that I needed him. To move on like I usually did, I started seeing this other guy. He pretended to be a caring friend. I was vulnerable and we ended up sleeping together. A few days later, Chris came back and apologized for being insensitive to my problems and how much he loved me. We ended up sleeping together. I know I was young and a hot mess. That morning while I was getting ready, he went through my phone and found out about the other guy earlier that week. All heck broke loose. He was really hurt and he asked how could I do that to him if I loved him. I knew the other guy was a huge mistake, but technically me and Chris were not together and he was also seeing other people. Even so, I let him put the blame on me about how I messed everything up. I later had a breakdown / suicidal thoughts. Months went by and I found God. No more rebounds. I was focused on healing and becoming a better Christian, including not having sex anymore. Me and Chris connected months later and it seemed like we were having a civil, mature reunion. We talked things over and I talked about my new walk of life. He was proud of me. A few weeks later we hung out. It got late and we were getting comfortable, so I stayed over. We started kissing and I told him that I did not want it to go any further. He said okay and got off of me. A few minutes later he got on me, being a little bit more aggressive this time. I told him to stop, but I was not very stern. I did not push him off. At the moment I couldn't move. My body felt like jello and I did not have control. He ended up forcing himself on me and I was completely still. I don't think I was even breathing. I felt like I was sitting across the room watching this happen to myself. He did not stop until he realized I was frozen and I could not move. He got off me and looked worried. He said he thought this is what I wanted and that none of this was my mistake. He told me that God knew that I was trying to be abstinent and this slip up wasn't on me. He proceeded to fall asleep like a baby. I stayed there and could not move. I couldn't leave. The next morning when I woke up, he was going through his phone and asked if I wanted to see a picture of the girl he was talking to, like nothing had happened. I honestly think this was payback of him finding out about the other guy. I didn't really tell anyone because I was embarrassed. I didn't feel like I had a case to press charges either because I put myself in the position by sleeping over. The one person I did tell brushed it off like nothing. The whole ordeal crushed me physically, mentally, everything. He moved on to date the girl that he had showed me that morning and they became one of the school's cutest couples. They were everywhere and I feel like it ruined my college experience. I didn't want to do anything that I could possibly run into them. I felt like I was always hiding. That led me into depression. I believe he created that relationship out of spite to purposely flaunt it in my face. He proceeded to move into my neighborhood. The new girl is totally naive and unaware that I live here. I even woke up one morning to see them making snow angels outside my window. They graduated before me and things started to get better as I stayed off of social media. I made a point not to check up on him and his life anymore because when I did, it always looked like he was living the life. Picture perfect love life, a million friends, success after college. Meanwhile, I was still dealing with the trauma from that night, struggling to graduate, and I was lonely. I found a supportive group of female friends and I began thriving, working, and felt like I was progressing. I even started a YouTube and it really started taking off. I still couldn't date and I found it hard to open up to a man. Clearly this letter is super duper long, so I'm gonna have to summarize it from here. So the writer of the letter is Every place she looks, she sees him living the dream life. He's got the great relationship, the friends, the success after college. All of these amazing things are happening for this man, and all he ever does is shove it in her face. Periodically, he will call and check up on her just so that he can tell her how well he's doing, and the writer of the letter doesn't know what to do. She feels like she hasn't been able to move on since this night, and so she asked me what she should do. First of all, I just recently became aware that there was a Senate bill passed, it basically changes the verbiage in rape cases where you don't have to prove force. Up until this bill was passed, as long as the assailant could prove that you never fought him off, you never scratched his eyes out and all that it wasn't rape. But there are oftentimes situations like this one where you're just scared, where you go into shock, you may have been drugged, you may be drunk. So many situations and scenarios where you don't fight back. I think that you were the victim of rape. Once you told him no and he proceeded, it doesn't matter if you fought or not, that's still rape. And I wanted to do your video because a lot of people have this idea that rape has to be this one thing. It could be situations like this where you know the guy, where you used to be in a relationship with the guy. He's your husband, he's your boyfriend, he's your ex. You've been intimate with him before. If you say no and a man still proceeds, that's still rape. And it doesn't matter if you fought back. It doesn't matter if you slept over. None of that gives him a reason or gives him an excuse to rape you. When he realized that you weren't really into it and he looked worried because he knew what was up. I think he's continuing to follow up with you because I think he feels like as long as you're still cool with him, that means he didn't rape you. If I were you, I would make sure that he is completely out of my life. I wouldn't take his calls anymore, not follow him on Facebook and Twitter and all that. Don't let him rub in your face that he's out here living a happy life after what he did to you. And that's the reason why I wanted to do your video, because I have so many dorm room divas where something like this can happen to you and you tell somebody and they shrug it off. Well, you tell somebody else. You tell whoever you have to tell until somebody believes you. Just because you did not fight back does not mean that you were not raped. I definitely agree with you. I think that he wanted to get back at you for sleeping with someone that same week and not telling him. So his way of getting back at you was to take that from you, knowing how clear you were about, hey, I'm trying to be a Christian now, I'm trying to be abstinent now. And he tried to take that from you. I feel like he wanted to get back at you. He wanted to punish you. And that thought is what clouded his judgment, because he wasn't even listening to you when he said no. He was only fueled by anger. I'm really sorry that this happened to you, but I'm also really proud of you for being brave enough to tell your story again. The first person dismissed it, brushed it off, but you found yourself a safe environment for you to tell your story again. And I think if anybody watching this video has gone through a similar situation, I'm hoping that you can pull from this strawberry letter that same thing. It doesn't matter if somebody brushes you off, whether you are coming out about being molested or coming out about being raped. If one person brushes you off, you tell somebody else. Telling your story is the beginning of you healing. This guy is a sociopath. The fact that he moved into your neighborhood, he knows where you live, so he has the nerve to be making snow angels outside your window with his new girl. He is sick. You don't have to put up with this. You don't have to take his calls, his emails. You don't have to still be civil with him. This man is a rapist. He may not want to carry the label of a rapist, but he knows what he did. And you continuing to talk to him makes him feel a little bit better. I wouldn't give him that satisfaction. No, you are a bad guy. You're so much of a bad guy that I don't want to talk to you again, ever again. I don't want you anywhere near me. Don't call me, don't write me, and I better never see you in my yard. Don't let him feel better after what he's done to you by continuing to speak to him. He is not your friend. Doesn't matter what kind of past you guys had, no matter how many good memories you guys had 1,000,001 years ago, this is still the man that took from you something that you did not offer up. Don't let him stay in your life, torturing you with how happy he is. You've been stuck in the same spot for 4 years. He robbed you of that time. Get your life back. And the way for you to start is to make sure that he's not in it. You should never have to look outside your window and see the man who raped you making snow angels in your front yard with his new girl. I would make sure that he stays out of my life, and if he didn't volunteer and do it, I would make sure that the law would make him do it. What he did to you was wrong. And he may never ever confess to it, but you know what happened. And I hope this video encourages those of you who've been in a similar situation where you go to somebody who you think is your friend and you try to tell them, I've been molested or I've been raped, and they brush you off, whether it's your mother, your aunt, your uncle, your friend, your cousin, whoever it is. When you tell someone what happened to you and they brush you off, don't let that be the end of it. Tell somebody else. Find you a safe environment and tell somebody else, but don't keep their secret. Drag them out there into the light. Alright, that's pretty much it. Hope you guys have enjoyed this video. Be sure to thumbs up if you did. If you want to see more videos like this one, then be sure to subscribe so that you'll never miss a video from me. And also, I want to do another week of strawberry letters in August, so go ahead and send in your letters. I want to do another 5 videos in 5 days. That's the plan, but I'm going to need your letters to do it. So go ahead and write into me and make sure that you just send it to my YouTube inbox. And that's pretty much it. I love you guys, and I'll see you all in the next video. Till next time, later divas and dudes. Deuces, honey.